welcome to the Gardening Club. It's a monthly meeting for open source projects to share what they're doing in the Zcash ecosystem and for projects to connect. And there's also an open mic section at the end after some invited talks. So if anyone wants to share for about 5 minutes on their projects, speak up and chat, and we'll give you a slot at the end of the meeting. All right. So we are now recording. And here's the agenda. First, we have some announcements, and then we have two sort of deep dive topics that are about 15 minutes each. One is a demo from Geffen at the ECC, and he's going to be showing a demo of a UX feature we call auto shielding. And then the next one is an update from Elliot and Steve about their ZOMG grant project, which is to build a web wallet, a shielded web wallet as a browser extension. And then after that, we have the open mic, and we've already had a few folks sign up. There's going to be one about shielded Coinbase metrics, and then there's going to be one about Zcash incentives from Elena. And I think that might be related to shielded incentives, but we'll find out. So, announcements. ECC has been like foundational and contributing to this program called Crypto in Context. And we've had a pilot program that just wrapped up with the Bronx Community College. And this is a really cool program where we we work together with various industry leaders and meet with high school students or young adults to teach them about financial literacy and crypto and the whole space, and also learn from them, you know, how they see it, what makes sense to them, what they're curious about. So it's really cool, and you should check it out. And it's really cool because we get to learn kind of from different groups of folks on the ground instead of something we nerds like me often do, where we're just have our heads in the cloud playing with tech without really connecting with people. So it's really nice to close the loop on that. We got a shout out from Edward Snowden at the Ethereal Summit. We've seen so many privacy coins, and Zcash does the best in this space. So he's a big fan, and it's nice to see that support. We have a metrics page that the ECC hosts and updates, and it gets updated monthly. So it was just updated, and that shows some metrics that we consider strategically important, including how much ZEC is in the shielded pool, what is the rate of payments and transaction volume. So check that out. And ECC has a new developer relations who just joined us. His name is Will. I don't know if he's on the call, but if you see him around, give him a big welcome. I think initially he's going to be focused on like improving our documentation and SDKs to make it easier for new developers to like get onboarded with our SDKs. So I really look forward to working with him on that. And next week is ZCon 2 Lite. So ZCon, this would be the conference that the Zcash Foundation has hosted, and the first two were really amazing, like really great talks, really collaborative crowd, lots of engaging conversations. So you should definitely check that out next week. It's light this year because it's virtual, you know, with all of the chaos going on around COVID, and it's going to be awesome. So since it's virtual, you don't need to miss it. So come check that out. And then an update on ZOMG. So that's Zcash Open Major Grants Committee. They've funded 5 new projects in the past month, and those are pretty cool. We're going to hear from one of them. So that's this shielded web wallet. There's a few others. There's like a meme platform called ZOMG. There's a big grant for improving Nighthawk, and there's some other great stuff in there. So check those out. All right. So moving on to the first presentation, we're going to hear from Geffen. I'll let him do the intro. There's a lot of words here, but I'm just going to stop sharing. Oops. And if I can figure out how to stop sharing and let him run with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nate. I appreciate it. So I'm gonna, hey, my name's Gavin. I'm gonna share my whole screen and hopefully walk you through. Let's share it all. Is this too large widescreen, or does it look okay to everybody?
It looks a little short to me, but it's still totally visible and looks good.
Okay, if we have an issue, I can try to make it half screen, but it's always hard getting it to stay within the windows then. Anyway, I'm Gavin. Today I'm doing a little demo on auto shielding. I just want to make it clear, you'll also hear the phrase shielded by default at times. And this is the way we're trying to term the action to the user so they understand that it's going to fix some of the issues we've had in the past where they're not always using the privacy features they thought they were. This is also what I look a little bit like that. I look mostly like that. So there you have it. Um, Nate is correct in the initial slide. This is a part of NU5 with unified addresses. While the feature of auto shielding is possible to do right now, and I'm going to show you some test wallets that are doing it pre-NU5, it's really going to work when you're going to have a bundled address. And I want to do a quick primer on UAs just in case you haven't seen them. There'll be a lot of talk at ZCon 2 about it as well. However, a unified address is really trying to create a bundle of addresses for each user where you have your transparent address that you're probably not using that much, but you might receive to. You have your old sapling address and you'll have your orchard address or any new addresses that come along with network upgrades. The idea here is to help users automatically migrate their funds or shield their funds, depending on if it's coming from a shielded pool to another shielded pool that's newer, or if they're just trying to trying to shield funds they received at their T address. So if you see this unified address terminology, and I will leave time at the end for questions and answers. Feel free to ask then. There'll be a lot more about this coming out in the future. Um, the shielded by default flow that we have right now is not the final flow. We're doing some work here to modify it, but I'm going to walk you through it and then actually show you what some recorded demos of the current ECC wallet and how it's running. When the user first opens their wallet, they're going to first get an initial education, and this is going to give them the information they need to know to understand that we're shielding by default now. What that means that we're automatically going to move your funds to the more private, hopefully more secure address, and we're going to call that action auto shielding. So this is why I'm saying auto shielding and shielding by default. They're not exactly interchangeable because the user could technically opt out of shielding by default, in which case the auto shielding action wouldn't happen. For our ECC wallets, our internal wallets, while we're testing this, we need the users to do it. So we are going to pretty much force them to do it. Um, so they're going to get that educational screen. And then whenever they log in, I'm trying to make this so I can move around for you guys. There you go. Whenever they log in, it's going to say, hey, we're shielding some funds for you. You've just opened your wallet. We've noticed that you have one ZEC or more than one ZEC. That's a threshold boundary we're setting right now that'll help with security. That way you can't get a lot of little dust attacks that will constantly keep you shielding and maybe open your network activity to some sort of attack or at least analyzation. So we're basically just going to let the user know that, yeah, it's about to happen. We're going to shield that right now. We're going to tell you what you're shielding, and you go right back to your balance, and you'll see what's available. There is a chance that you received some T funds and they're less than a ZEC and you still want to move them. So there will be a manual fund available. This is a screen that you can get to when you press the available button. That's what this asterisk is right here. And what it will do is show you really all the math that your wallet is doing with your multiple accounts. So you have your shielded ZEC of 20, you have transparent 12. So this would have actually triggered the auto shield feature This is sort of a mock-up just to show some math and how it would work. But here you can shield transparent funds manually, at which point when you get back to your screen, you'll see you have 32. Now we are doing a little bit of magic here with ignoring confirmations on this flow. So there will be some confirmation. You might end up going to your view history to see transactions, to see how many confirmations and see the money coming through. Or you might see that you have this much ZEC, but less available for spending. And what this does mean is within your receive screen, you do need to be able to toggle between shielded and transparent QR codes. This is for right now. In the future, hopefully you'll have one unified address. That'll be one QR code, have one address line as well. And that will be able to receive any type of fund you send to it. Excuse me, any type of Zcash you send to it. If you, of course, send a different cryptocurrency, there will be issues. So let's do some quick demos really quick. I'm using the testnet Zcash faucet. This is a great tool for developers if you're not aware of it. I'm able to send some TAS to these two wallets I have. Let's do this real quick. There we go. So this is the Android wallet as is right now. I open it up. It's going to quickly sync to the blockchain, find out that there is some TAS available, or if there is TAS available. Just showing you here that this is a test build. So you see a shielded Z test addressed. And transparent address, it shows that it's downloaded one transaction and does have a balance of 0.01. I just said, go ahead and shield that. It said done, shielding success. It's pretty much that quickly. Since it's creating a transaction to itself, it's very, very smooth and fast action. This is the manual example, remember. You wouldn't even need to see this if we actually have shielded by default on and auto shielding going. On the, I'm going to guess that I need to reset these two. On the iOS version, when we load in, we're doing a little bit differently. If you look at that available, there's a little like asterisk or T right there. We're going to change that design exactly what it looks like. But here I go to transparent. I share my address. I then fund it through that site, which I'll do off screen. So I believe I edited out any kind of waiting time. Boom. So now the 0 TAS available. That changes. So I do see a small number and I can come in here and see a transparent. I have to wait for confirmation. So this is a little more realistic, but when it's available, I can now shield transparent funds. I hit that button and it shields it to my main balance. So there's a couple concerns that I think I want to raise to the developer community for like a clear footing moving forward. Auto shielding only works when the wallet is active. I've actually kind of playing around with the concept of calling this like Schrodinger's wallet, in the fact that you don't know if your funds are shielded or not until you look into your wallet. And the moment it's open, it has the agency to create a transaction and shield your funds. So there's sort of this hypothesis that I want to start throwing out there of how we get users to realize that they need to check their wallet. It works in synergy with the fact that we need the blockchain synced anyway. So what we could do is start having a little more push notifications, and these would be client side, not server side. It would keep your privacy, but get that shielded by default as a full-time feature. So what that really means is the wallet needs agency to migrate and shield. It needs to be able to do it without asking your permission every time. So explaining that to a user, so there's a clarity of where their funds are at any point in time, is a big deal. And it's going to be most effective when we have UAs and in U5. The next steps in this area are really, we're going to test it, we're going to test it, we're going to test it. Right now we know it's working. I just showed you two examples on two different platforms. We believe it's private. I'm doing a question mark there because of network data that we may or may not be leaking if we're doing this every time you start up your phone. But if we do it with logic, if we do it with that threshold or plus and minus a certain amount of ZEC off that threshold, we should get to the point where it's impossible to spam a wallet and get information about it. If the numbers go down, and of course I'm not talking about the actual fiat conversion, I'm talking about confirmations. Since this is your wallet, if I'm sending from your shielded, your transparent address to your shielded address, I'm hoping that I can argue that we can have a one confirmation check to validate that you have the funds so you can see your balance clearly. So you don't have to see that pending very long. Now, maybe it's not spendable because the protocol still won't allow it until 10 confirmations, but I feel like we can get the UX to be improved for the user. and keep that trust level up. Because once again, we're moving funds around and everyone has a little bit of hesitancy when we hit that. We want to do that in an optimized and opportunistic way at all times. The next step would be to move this to Orchard testnet or NU5 testnet and make sure all the future ECC wallet builds have this on by default. Of course, we believe in choice, so I think there'll be an opt-out, but we really do believe in this as a function of UAs and therefore of NU5. So when we go live, third-party partners will be requested to use this. Now, I think it's optional. I don't think we can force them, but we are kind of already promising this feature to be shielded by default. And this is where I want to make sure we don't fall in the same pit trap we have done in the past, where we have the best privacy as long as you have it on. So I'm trying to avoid that at all times, at all points, whenever I have any education or conversation or any feedback loop with the customer or the user, excuse me, I shouldn't say customer. And really that's it. I did this pretty quickly so I could get some more feedback. I can go back and show more of the screens and zoom in if you'd like. But let me go ahead and close for now and see if anyone has any questions.
Perfect timing. So I was just about to give you the 5-minute warning. So we have some space if anyone has questions or thoughts in response to that. I'll be scanning the chat.
So, okay, Steve asked the question about whether or not the protocol will do the conversion, however, or how are we stopping the dust correlation attacks or similar. Currently, my understanding, and remember, I am a designer, I'm not one of the engineers, but I'm in a lot of those conversations. My understanding is the protocol won't do it automatically for you, except maybe when it comes to migrating funds, like when there's a network upgrade, you'll always have to have a wallet open and therefore have given something agency to move funds for you. I've been part of a couple of design sessions where we do a deep dive into how we can be more like a post office where stale addresses would always forward funds. There's lots of interesting ways that we could use the memo field to leave notes to yourself in the past to move it forward, but there's no real solution there yet. So if anyone is really into that, I'd love to brainstorm with them. Lena did a great job of linking the testnet faucet. It really is useful for TAS and any testnet development.
Cool. Steve, did that answer your question?
Yes, more or less. I think it's just I'm just having a hard time getting my head around having one address that takes a Z can take a Z transaction, a T transaction, and yet I can't do some sort of correlation attack to work out what funds are in that address if some of it's still sort of a T visible address if I haven't opened my wallet. And I was just wondering how, so that's why I was wondering if it's going to happen at the protocol level. But yeah, I think it's good. I'd like to talk more about it. So I'll start a thread on the forums.
Yep. There's also a blog post on Z.cash, I believe, or maybe ECC. I'm not sure which one, but if you search for UA and blog, you'll definitely find it. There is a discussion about the T address always rolling. So you only use a T address once and it keeps moving over versus keeping the same T address, even though there's no correlation with the Z address clearly known unless you've shared both with the same person. Yeah, so I mean, at this point, I think we're getting real close to where we almost need to have a white hat event and really bang on it and see exactly what we can find out if once UA is truly moving. But I believe that's going to have to wait till July 1st for the testnet.
Can I do?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say a quick summary. So there's 3 main terms that you'll hear be thrown around in this conversation. One is unified addresses. That's what Geffen was talking about will happen with NU5. The second is auto shielding, which is the demo that Geffen just walked us through. And auto shielding is a UX feature that will be included as part of the Halo Arc kind of product suite. This is at the wallet level. ECC is working to put this in the wallet SDKs and libraries so that developers have that resource that they can integrate into their products. And then the last term that Geffen mentioned in his presentation is this term shielded by default. ECC will be publishing a few more kind of educational materials about this, maybe a blog or a explainer video. Shielded by default is really what we're branding around wallets that have shielded storage. They use unified addresses and they offer auto shielding. So that whole experience will be bundled for people so that they can rest assured every time they turn on their wallet or activate their wallet, their funds will be shielded by default. So I know it's a lot of terms getting thrown around, but I wanted to kind of clarify like what means, what we're referring to with each term.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, everyone. Chris mentioned a few good caveats really about the T addresses that I think is worth reading in the chat. The main thing is we do already know that there will not be auto shielding every time it's turned on unless you're past the threshold. So the question right now is whether or not that threshold is enough to stop all attackers, or if we need to have it as a system preference that the user can set and change depending on whatever privacy level they want. So we will come back to you guys with more of that at a future Garden Club.
Yep, thanks. Yeah, one piece I wanted to throw on there also is that we want to share stuff like this and also get like prototypes on the testnet and get a lot of feedback about these trade-offs between usability and privacy and so on and so forth. So I think this whole concept of shielded by default is kind of like a thing we want to aim the whole ecosystem towards, and it's going to take a lot of collaboration and iteration, especially with wallet devs, to make it work really well across the ecosystem. So show up and ask more questions like that. Yeah, thanks. Cool. So moving right along, this part's always kind of awkward because I'm going to share my screen. I don't know if this is necessary, but it's to show one slide for our next presentation. Yeah, so we're going to hear from Elliot Blanchard, who also put up zdash.info, which is a metrics site for Zcash. Fire Ice, who I'm not sure if they're here, but Mist FPGA is also here. We're going to hear from them on this project, which is it sounds really exciting. So go ahead and take it away, Elliot.
Hi. So first of all, it's good to be here, and thanks for giving us the time to do an update. So we just started on our project, and I'm going to actually drop the proposal into the chat. So if anybody wants to read up on sort of what we'll be doing. But the short answer is we are building the first release of a Metamask excuse me, style browser extension for Chromium browsers that would act as a wallet in the extension. So the idea here is that with this project, we're building like a good foundation, and then hopefully features can be added in the future as they start to spin up for the whole ecosystem. So we just started work, I think a little over 2 weeks ago. So we are still working on the deliverables in our first milestone. So specifically on that, we're working on the wireframes for the front end. I'd say we're about 80% complete on that. We still have a few more screens to go. And then I think the next steps for that is we're going to do an internal review within the team. And then we will potentially reach out for some input from community members like Evo who have UX experience. And then I think at that point, once we've done that and integrated any feedback, we can share it with the community as part of our first milestone deliverables. In addition, another thing that we're working on is the setup of the extension is we're going to have a JavaScript extension that has a WebAssembly engine written in Rust inside of it. So on the Rust WebAssembly front, we've been spending a good amount of time so far getting the code base of ZK Lite's WASM build up and running so that we can use it as a test bed and hopefully get some code reuse from there. So that's been the main focus, and it's been very successful. We've had a lot of great help on that. And now we're kind of moving on to our sort of initial code tests in the extension environment. So I think that's going well. You know, that's a pretty complex work stream, but we're making good progress on it. The third deliverable we're working on for milestone 1 is the proxy translation service that allows the extension to communicate with the Light Wallet D server so that it can connect to the blockchain. We have a base functionality working on that. It's making good calls, so we can call out with get and put calls and have that translated into the gRPC calls that Light Wallet D expects. We've already implemented a bunch of methods on that. So I think at this point, that's in pretty good shape. And the fourth deliverable we're working on, milestone 1, is getting the security effort up and running. We're really lucky to have Mist on the team. He's a great community member for security, and having him be involved from like day one has been huge for us in terms of just understanding, you know, all of the industry standard specs for building a secure app, and, you know, being able to do testing at the earliest possible stages, both for our own code, and then I think that we also are going to take a look at Light Wallet D, because, you know, that's a critical part of our infrastructure, and if an attacker can get to that, then, you know, all of our code's going to go down too. So I personally am super happy that we're getting security involvement from day one, because I think it's going to A, save so much time, and B, lead to a much more secure deliverable. Last but not least, we have a potential name. We were thinking Zephyr could be a cool name that would also keep the Z thing going. I think that's it. So, you know, we're going to just keep cranking through the summer. A couple of us have vacations, but so far it's basically sort of like full steam ahead, and we're really excited about the project and getting an opportunity to do this work for you guys. So any questions you may have, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the overview. This is really exciting. I had a question to start. You mentioned milestone 1 a few times. Is the scope of the current grant basically just milestone 1? So
no,
you imagine?
Yeah, sorry if I wasn't clear. That's milestone 1 within our current grant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's just our
like a big one.
our first project milestone within the grant. So, you know, at the end of the grant, we'll be delivering, you know, like the fully functional extension. And
Oh, cool.
milestone 1 is just our first milestone for getting there.
Cool. So can you give an overview of the future milestones, or are they still works in progress?
So this is the first milestone. I'm just clicking over to milestones myself. So the next milestone is really the big one. That's primary development. So that's when we'll, you know, basically be building the full app in terms of taking all the functionality, as well as, you know, taking the wires, building out the fully designed frames and implementing them. So that's, and then also implementing our test plans. So that's really like the big milestone. That's kind of the build it milestone. And then the last milestone will be our, not only our QA, just the standard QA, that will be bringing in the third-party security organizations to take a look at the code. And then that's it. After we do that,
Awesome.
we deliver.
Cool. So I see some questions in chat. So let's see, one from Elena. Can you talk about how the browser extension might work with other applications in the Zcash ecosystem? For example, maybe Zec pages.
That is a good question. I think that there's a lot of potential there. Our first deliverable will not have sort of the functionality to sort of click in a link in a page and have it like launch and communicate with the extension sort of the way MetaMask can do with all the Web3. Having said that, I think the hope is that we can integrate that functionality in the future. I mean, I know that I believe ECC and everyone who supported us, thought of this extension as sort of the initial release that can be built on in the future. And I think that's one of the things that we're hoping to do.
Nice. Yeah, there was a question in chat from Kevin Gorham, and Steve thought he could answer because it's sort of about the security of the web, like the browser platform.
Yeah, Kevin asks, have you seen some of the MetaMask risks at a high level? How would you prevent your extension from leaking privacy info into other tabs? This is something I haven't seen the link that you posted. I hadn't actually seen that exact one, but this is something I've been looking at over the past couple of days. Depending on which browser it is, it requires different methods. You can create secure threads within the actual tabs themselves. So very much like in private browsing tab is probably going to be the main way this is going to happen. But at the moment, the version we've got is just completely still in memory. So it's still a test sort of thing. But we are taking this into consideration. We are going to be looking into this. If you keep up on the forums, I will post a much more in-depth explanation there for you, if that helps.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thanks. Next question from Elena. How will Zephyr compare to MetaMask? So like technologically, how do they compare? And then could Zephyr end up becoming like integrated into MetaMask?
Right. So I think in this early stage, the subset of MetaMask functionality that Zephyr have will just be, being able to create the wallet and send and receive funds. I think that, in terms of sort of the MetaMask structure where you can integrate other currencies into MetaMask, I think that we won't have that in the first release, but I think there's a possibility for that in future releases in terms of, reaching out and connecting to the MetaMask team and, understanding, the way they integrate other currencies into the code. Because I know they've done that with like a couple of currencies already.
Yeah. My understanding, last I checked, which may have changed, they had this new like sort of plugin architecture, but it may not support WASM or something like that. So it was, it seemed like it would be a fair amount of technical work to figure out how to get our Rust light wallet WASM stuff working in MetaMask.
Yeah, it's definitely so. I mean, just to be very clear, though, that would definitely be a future work stream past the delivery of this initial project.
Yep. Speaking of future work streams, this next question from Next is Crypto. Will it be compatible with hardware wallets like Ledger?
So that's another one, not in the first release, but there is a potential for future. But just to be clear, that wouldn't be in the first release.
Another one from Kevin Gorham. What level are you integrating with Librus Zcash? Will you use it directly or wrap it in a custom library similar to Zec Wallet?
I think that is a question. So FireIce is doing all the Rust work, so I don't know the answer to that question. I think to get the answer to that question, maybe we can ping him in the thread we have on the forums. And I'll ask him as well when we get off the call.
Okay, great. From Geffen, are you guys looking forward to user-defined assets or Zcash shielded assets? We call them ZSAs because it sounds cool. Yeah, are you anticipating that, or do you have thoughts on those?
So I think that was something that's been discussed from like the very early discussions as like a high target for future expansion of this project in future builds. So I'm hoping that in future expansions of this, we can get involved when it becomes available.
Cool. So I have some questions also. So one was, what was it? Oh, if there's going to be a custom proxy that's necessary to attach to Light Wallet D, wouldn't it be kind of nice if that came bundled with Light Wallet D, or at least Light Wallet D service providers supported that? So like, basically, what is the plan for the public release? Are you planning on operating that proxy or just putting the code out? In which case we should probably try to get others to plan to run it.
I think that in what we turned in the proposal was the development of the proxy, and then I think there would be some initial maintenance of the proxy. And I believe that in the proposal we talked about if we did ongoing operation of the proxy, that it would be a separate proposal. But it's so. Having said that, it's a very lightweight piece of code, so it's not a super heavy lift to keep operating.
Cool. Steve is also saying in chat, do you want to just speak up, Steve, and just summarize what you said?
Yeah, just regarding hardware wallets and Zephyr, I haven't actually told the team yet this, so I can't say anything more. But I'll just say watch this space. There'll probably be some updates, maybe in the thread soon, or maybe at my talk. Sorry, on my panel at ZCon 2. So you might want to tune in and listen to that.
Ooh, a cliffhanger for ZCon 2. That's exciting. Cool. That's a really exciting project. And I love the fact that you all have come together and sort of from the community, and you're collaborating on it together in a grant. That's really cool. So yeah, I'm going to be watching this. That's exciting. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks again for tapping us to do this. Oh, and I should say, Steve, do you want to say anything to wrap up?
No, thanks. I know I've said everything, I think. Yeah, thanks for inviting me to be here to give this talk. And yeah, it is actually, it's really good fun to be part of a very diverse team. So I wouldn't really have ever picked me, Fire Ice, and I don't really know who Elliot is. I'd never really picked us and put us together, but we work really well together because we've got such overlapping but complementary set of skills. It's nice. It's really good. Yeah, it's brilliant. I'm having a lot of fun. I think it's going to turn out really, really well.
Cool. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the third section. So that is going to be open mic. I don't know. I didn't see anyone speak up in chat saying that they wanted to give an open mic presentation, but if you want to, okay. Oh wait, speak up now or forever hold your peace. So we do already have a couple folks who signed up early. So this is, yeah, open mic is like 5-minute updates, and if you want to talk about them, jump in. So do we have Larry here? And is
yes, I'm here.
All right. Cool. Do you want to speak to this slide, or do you have your own screen share?
I'll talk about this slide, and then I do want to screen share for just a minute. Okay. So I'm Larry Ruane. I'm one of the ECC engineers, and I also work on Light Wallet D. So if anybody has any thoughts or questions about Light Wallet D, I'm very happy to talk to you about that. Some people were curious on how much the how much of the Coinbase miner reward is going to shielded addresses. So since the Heartwood upgrade, it's been possible to send for a miner to specify a shielded address as the output of the Coinbase. And actually, I'm going to share my screen right now first. Here, let's see. Oops.
Yep.
Oh, can you unshare for a second, Nate? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's see. I'll try to keep this in 5 minutes. Don't worry. Got to find the right. Let's see. Maybe this one? No. Oh gosh. Here it is. Okay, found it. So let's see. Just a quick little bit of background here for people. Now, okay, so in Zcash, this is you can look at any block explorer, and in every block, the first transaction is special. It's the Coinbase transaction, right? And here's an example. This is just from earlier today. I just picked one at random. And
Larry, you're not sharing your screen anymore. If you
okay,
meant to be.
Yeah, I did mean to be. Okay, hold on. What am I doing wrong? Let's see.
It was sharing for just a second, and then it went away.
Okay. I don't know if I'm sharing the right thing. Is this working? Can you see Block Explorer?
Yep, that looks perfect.
Okay, so this is a typical kind of Coinbase transaction first in a block. And just again, for like quick background, you can see here that there's 4 output addresses. And if you look at a Coinbase transaction on say on Bitcoin, there's only a single one, which is a payment to the miner, the block reward for the miner. So in Zcash, we always have 4 because we have the last one, the 4th one down here is the reward to the miner, and that's 2.5 ZAC plus the sum of the fees in the block. That's what the fraction is here. This 0.0006, and then the other 3 are. And I don't remember which is which, but one of them is a kind of like the founder's reward, what was before when we had a payment to the ECC, and then another one is the foundation, and another one's for grants. So that's what the first 3 are. And what you see here is most of our blocks look like this, where there's these 4 outputs are transparent addresses, and you notice the inputs. There are no inputs because these are. A Coinbase means it's generated from nothing. Now, see, the thing is I can't, there, okay. So here's an example now of a block that has a shielded Coinbase output. So here we have the same 3, we have the 3 outputs for the ECC and the major grants and the foundation, the same as before. Those are always shielded. And then this one up in the top here, this is the shielded output to the miners. So the miners now have a choice since Heartwood on collecting their block reward into a shielded address. So the one thing that's not hidden is the amount right here, because that's never shielded. So that's the same 2.5 plus the fraction, which is the transaction fees for that block added up. So what we were curious about here is the fact that what's the adoption? How many miners are using this particular feature? And Nathan, can you let's see if I unshare? Can you go back to sharing again? We can look at that slide.
Yeah, sure.
How do I now? See, I have trouble finding out how to. Oh, here it is. No. How do I unshare?
If you find Zoom, it's at the top.
Okay, sorry, there we go.
Yeah, let me grab the slides. Here it is. So I wrote a small Python script to do RPCs to a local Zcash D, and
let's see, there was a question. Will the shielded Coinbase feature be available? Yes, it will be. That's the answer to that question in the chat. So what we found here is, Elena made this nice graph here on the right, where we found that when this was introduced in Hardwood, this ability to shield Coinbase, it's just optional. You don't have to do it. Then, of course, it took miners a little while to upgrade their mining to take advantage of this feature. And then, as you see, it started to increase and reached this peak here last year in 2020, or actually earlier this year, 2021, in January or so. And then it dropped off a fair amount here. So that's really the main point of this little mini session here, is just to point out that there's still quite a bit of shielding going on to shielded Coinbase, or shielded Coinbase, but well, it's never a huge amount. This peak here is around 15% of all blocks. Now we're down to around somewhere around 10% of all blocks, I think. Might be say that in the slide here. So we were kind of puzzled about why this might be, and it turns out that there's there was a problem in the Zcash where it would create what's called a block template. So with the miners, some of them, what they can do is they can ask Zcash to propose a block that they would start hashing, and the block this block that they're going to try to hash on depends on the previous block. So when a block is discovered on the network and it gets relayed to all the nodes, then the miners can start to mine a new block based on that old block. But to create that block template for the next block took about, when you have a shielded Coinbase, it took somewhere on the order of about 500 milliseconds to create that next block template to start mining, and that's a half a second. That doesn't sound like much, but to a miner, that's significant delay, and so their hashing power is not being used during that 500 milliseconds per block. So that's a significant cost to them. So one of our miners pointed this out to us. So we actually fixed this, or that's the PR listed there, so that now the block template generation is about 1 or 2 milliseconds. So it's almost nothing. It's as fast as mining to a transparent address. So this is good, but then we don't see the usage going up. So what we think is maybe the miners are not aware that, so we think that the mining to shielded may have gone down because word got around, oh, this is costing you money to mine to mine to a shielded address. So they stopped doing that. They went back to mining to transparent. Well, now that this is fixed in 4.2.0, but now maybe people don't know that, or they're not aware, so they haven't really gone back up to using more mining to shielded. So that's what we're hypothesizing. We don't know the reason, but that's a theory. So I guess I'm saying, if anybody here is a miner, okay, thanks, Nathan. If anyone here is a miner, or if you know miners, maybe you can just let them know that, hey, you can mine to shielded Coinbase, and it's you'll be okay. Like it's not going to cost you anything extra to do that. So that's it. Unless there's any questions on that, or we can just go on to the next topic.
Yeah, that's great. That's very informative. I actually I learned a few things here, so great to see. Thanks. I can't see the chat, so Elena, if you see questions in the chat, can you ask them?
I think Larry answered the one question or the two questions that came up, which is why do we think there was a peak in January and then a slide since then? Larry kind of explained a little bit, maybe miners aren't aware of the fix. And then shielded Coinbase is going to be available in NU5, which was a question from Adi.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So,
oh, one last thing on this slide that I don't know that Larry mentioned. I thought it was pretty interesting that 41% of the shielded Coinbase blocks are coming from Poolin. And then the other blocks don't identify the miner at all. And Larry was saying that for transparent mining, you tend to see a lot of the other mining pools. So
Yeah.
something to look into there.
All right, so we have one last slot unless somebody spoke up in chat about wanting to present. So we have this slide. Elena was going to talk about Zcash incentives discussion.
Yes,
Go
so
for it.
this is really just meant to be a discussion starter, something that we can continue talking about in the forum and hopefully as part of ZCon 2 next week. But essentially the main question I want to throw out to the community is how might we create more incentives to use Zcash and to develop on top of the Zcash ecosystem? For people who might not be aware, there have been different initiatives that either get put out in the forum or on Reddit for ways to incentivize either shielded adoption or Zcash use in general. If you're curious about specific examples, there's one called the Prince Fund, which I can link to in the chat. It was essentially a Reddit post from about a year ago that outlined, a few tactics at the protocol level for incentivizing shielded adoption. Another example that we've talked internally at ECC, a few people have mentioned, maybe having bounties for your first successfully merged PR or the first time that you contribute to a code base or something like that. So there are no lack of really great ideas. I think what we don't have is necessarily a great place to surface these proposals. And I think now that the Zcash ecosystem is decentralizing, we have the Zcash Foundation, the Zcash Open Major Grants Committee, and ECC. We don't have necessarily a really effective place to house these proposals, surface them, and kind of take them from point A to point B. And if people really enjoy them, getting them active on mainnet or at least in a zip or in a kind of a more formal proposal process. So I wanted this take advantage of the Zcash Gardening Club to kind of present that. If this is something that people are interested in, maybe we can start a working group on the forum and figure out the best place to put it. I know that everyone is really busy, so it's not meant to be kind of one person's responsibility to surface these ideas or come up with a solution. But I do think that if we put our heads together between the ECC, ZF, ZOMG, and also Zcash community members, we can find a really good place to surface and discuss these types of proposals. Let me go ahead and link to the Zcash Prince proposal so people know what we're talking about. And then that's all my update. It was really more just a thought starter. This will be something that comes up also as part of ZCon 2 discussions next week.
Okay, I have a question, and then Steve also mentioned passing outreach ideas to Zcash Foundation and ZOMG that he could add to your thread. So my question was, I'm trying to summarize what I heard you say. It sounds like basically there are potentially valuable ideas that sometimes like surface or float around like on Reddit or the forum. And we want to find a way to like get those in the door and get people working on them. And I'm wondering, since we already have the major grants, if what we're talking about is something kind of in the middle where maybe people could show up. I don't know if this is, I'm speculating, but maybe people could show up and be like, hey, I want to help with Zcash. And I'm interested in working on anything. And other people could be like, oh, check out this list of ideas. Do any of these appeal to you? And if so, we'll help you like write up a grant proposal or something. So some sort of like funnel for grants. Is that what you were thinking about, or is that just where my mind's going?
I think that's where your mind's going, but that's not a bad idea. I think, so what I meant to point out or illuminate as part of bringing up this question is we don't currently have a funnel. Or we have a lot of different mini funnels. And the ZOMG grant process is working really well in terms of getting grants funded once they're proposed. But in terms of, this is a slightly different mechanism because it's an idea or in a suggestion without necessarily a team to build it. So it's not kind of that, one is more of a push function. So I am pushing a grant forward, or I have an idea and I'm pushing it through. The other is more of a pull function. I have a list of really cool ideas. I want to prioritize them, and then we have to find people who can actually build them. So I think the other thing I'll say is there's some kind of gray area in terms of, you know, some of these are good ideas, but they might affect the Zcash, the economics of Zcash. So we should, you know, kind of elevate that or consider it a different way. Others might just be straight up marketing incentives where if, you know, there's a $10,000, 10,000 ZEC pool, you can kind of incentivize people in different ways. So really just trying to ask the community what would be the preferred place to house these, and then take it from there. I'm just planting a seed, and then maybe we can continue this discussion next week.
All right.
My hand was just up just to mention that you're saying push and pull. I also want to point out that it removes the constraints that are on the foundation and ECC to some extent, so we can try to compensate people we didn't have, like people in the community that we like compensation is not the goal, but we would definitely want to, you know, anything from a badge thank you to a, you know, a heartfelt hug. We still need a way to be able to do that.
Cool. All right. Thanks everyone for showing up to the June Gardening Club. This happens the first Tuesday of every month. So see you next time. Bye.